Welcome to Color Jotting. Here we're using stencil CJ03, which is kind of a leaf pattern. Excellent practice with 2 curved edges and 2 points. After tracing the stencil with a black waterproof marker, I always number it 1 to 18 clockwise. The outer row is for the pure color, and the 2 rows towards the center, we're going to dilute with water to create lighter colors. On the grid, I'm going to mark the corresponding shapes, 1 to 18, that's 1 to 9 on the top, and 10 to 18 along the bottom. They are identical to the colors we just did in the color wheel. It's just the first time we discover it, the second time we replicate it. I circle spots 1, 7, and 13. Those are where our prime colors right out of the pan are going to go, and we have 5 mixing spaces in between. The Rosa Watercolour set we're using today is set A. It's Aureolin, Cad Red Medium, and Ultramarine Blue. These are very popular colors, common in beginner color mixing. I thoroughly label my charts with the brand name, the color number, the color name, the pigment identification number, the little square that tells me whether it's an opaque or transparent color, and also the stars, which tell me if it's a light fast color. So these are great reference points later. The pigment identification number means you can go between brands, and if you find the same pigment number, it'll be similar enough for the ColourJot mixing exercises. So again, use what you have. I have chosen the Rosa watercolors because I believe they are a great value and give really nice results. And you can see the quality immediately. A little bit of water, lifting it with the brush, I got intense, clean, bright Cad Red Medium, and it paints solidly as expected. I'm painting the colors twice, so they're going on the color wheel. I'm also placing them on the color grid. Watch the easy process I have for creating the tints. First, I paint a bold color right to the edges, and then over onto the grid as well. Same color. The number 1 spot's the number 1 spot. Next, I pick up a bit more water, dip it onto the paper towel to wick off away some color, and then I have a more diluted color to paint on the page. And I repeat that, a little water, a dab on the paper towel to create the 3rd tint of that color. In this way, we can see the undertone, the paper glowing through the color to give us our lighter color. A very important technique in watercolor. Now I'm gradually mixing a little of the red into the yellow. Aureolin is quite powerful, and Cad Red does not have the same tinting strength. So I'm using the 2 puddles of color, the yellow and the red, to kind of create a yellowy orange, an orange, a reddish orange, an almost red, as I work my way towards the red. Oops, did you notice on number 2 I missed doing the tint? That's okay, go back, add a little bit more yellow into your mixture to get that barely off the prime yellow, just a little bit of orange in there. I replicated it and then was able to dilute it again. So we're just pushing and pulling in between the yellow and the red to get our different mixes. The number 4 spot is halfway between 1 and 7. It's got a little line there to remind me. So in this one, I'm mixing the brightest orange I can with these 2 colors. So it should be neither yellow nor red. It should read orange. So the halfway point is always that. So I do mark my prime spots and the halfway just to give me a good guide to what I'm working towards. As we get to 5, it's getting really close to the red. And then 6 will just be slightly off the prime red. So our goal is to have a nice transition from Aureolin. How do you pronounce it? Anyway, 6 is Cad Red with a tiny bit of yellow in it. Water is the main ingredient in watercolor, so learning to dilute your colors to let the white of the page show through is how you're going to get those glowing watercolors. The paper I'm working on today is Arches 140 pound cold press, so it's a heavyweight paper with a slight dimply texture just to hold my colors. On to the next color. This is ultramarine blue. Now at our store in Alberta, that is the #1 selling color across all oil, acrylic, watercolor, pastel, you name it, ultramarine blue. Perhaps because Alberta is big blue sky country, or maybe it's because ultramarine blue used to be made from crushed lapis lazuli, you know, the wonderful color that the Egyptian mummies had with their gold and dark blue stone. Maybe it's the romance of that. Today the color is mined, mostly in Afghanistan, Russia, and Chile. It is rare, it is expensive, and it's quite coarse and granular for painting. So what we use as artists is a man-made synthetic version of ultramarine blue. In the number 8 spot, we're putting a little bit of ultramarine blue, mixing it with the cad red. How little can you add before the color shifts? Cadmium red is also a pure pigment, and it's a very orangey red. And orange and blue are complementary. So because this red is not blue enough, it's not crimson or burgundy, we're almost complementary. So that is why our purples are going to be subdued. This might disappoint you if you're trying to get a perfect purple. We have other red, yellow, blue combinations that do brighter purples. And some surprise in that a green and a purple will make a better purple than this particular blue and red combination. But there is lovely color. The number 9 spot, for example, I love Caput Mortem, that very purpley dull color. If you've ever had to do lips and some of your reds are too bubblegummy and other reds do too purple, this is where you get nice natural purples that you see in some skin tones. So this color combination, not the greatest for purple, but very usable colors for receding mountains, where you need an earth tone purple, not a floral purple. But let's persevere and make a reddy version working towards a bluey version of as good a purple as we can make. In the number 12 spot, this is just off ultramarine blue with a little bit of cad red added to it. This is a deep, dark, moody blue, almost a Prussian blue, even an indigo, depending on how your mix turns out. So look for that purpley blue that's on the bluey side and as dark and rich as possible. Oops, and here again, I got so excited mixing color, I forgot to do my tints. No worries, we can push that puddle with a little bit of blue or a little bit of red. We can get it back to where we need it to be to create our tints. So a little mistake just means more practice. Speaking of practice, filling in these shapes perfectly is not the goal of ColourJot. We are jotting colors. We are just putting down colors as quickly as possible. Yes, I want you to use the right brush and be able to fill it in quickly and effortlessly, but we are not perfectly filling them in. If there's mistakes, misses, or slops, don't worry. That's why we use the black outline with the marker. That's going to provide our structure. So perfection in painting is not what we're working on. We are dealing with colors, and that's enough to focus on. Okay, back up to the top with Aurelin, which is also known as cobalt yellow. This is a sneaky color. Did you notice when it's thick and dark, it looks quite dull, but when we diluted it with water, it turned lemony. So the undertone of that color is very different than the mass tone, and that will show up in your color mixes as well. So here we're making a green that is chartreuse, a very little bit of ultramarine blue, and a lot of Aurelin. I'm demonstrating another trick of clean color mixing, and that is always add your dark color incrementally into your light color. And you can control your colors a bit better. It is not a 50-50 mix, it's a gradual addition of blue to get a nice range of greens in between Aurelin and ultramarine. And we're making very acidic colors. and earthy colors, because of course ultramarine is such a purpley blue. It's almost a complement to yellow, so we're going to get the army greens, the hooker greens, the sap greens, the olives, all of those yummy practical colors. And already it's clear to see how this color wheel is shaping up. It has got a nice transition around the whole thing. And because the transition is smooth and all the colors are related, we would call this harmonious. There's no clashing or fighting colors. They all sit and just travel around the color wheel. And that's because the greens have a little bit of blue in the yellow that matches the yellow that's in the oranges, and the same red is used in the oranges as in the purples, so everything has a commonality to it. That is the beauty of working with a limited palette. And the final color is number 14, and that is ultramarine with just a tiniest bit of Arlen, just to push it off the purpley blue into a more greeny blue. Just to give us a nice transition. And there you have a completed 18-point color circle. You have just made 54 colors with 3 colors. And now you're wondering, why did we plot everything out onto the grid? Well, here's part 2, which is mixing the complementary colors. So wipe away all the excess color. Don't worry, we saved your notes on the chart. We can thank that color and just clean our palette and start fresh. Now, the first time we mixed it, we discovered it. In the grid, we're replicating the swatch that we painted in the number 1. Oh, good, it's right out of the tube. Across from it is number 10. So we can keep mixing the color until we get to that purple that we need it to be, which is a reddish purple, but not too red. And it's going to be the complement to that very greeny yellow. I like a ceramic palette or a ceramic plate to work on. You can see I'm quite aggressively mixing, and the watercolor will slide around and move, and I can scoop away at the color to see the undertone, and I'm constantly comparing what I see on my palette to the swatch that I made. So the nice white surface of the ceramic helps me understand that. Also, the scrubbing and wear and tear on my brush is reduced by having this slick surface to mix on. My brushes will last longer. Another common trick in the ColourJot system is that I use an ice cube tray as my water supply. It's almost off camera here, but you can see it's an ice cube tray, and I have 12 chances to keep my water clean. So I encourage that tip for everyone. On the grid side, getting to the colors is the tricky part. Swatching them out, mixing 5 little spots between yellow and purple, it goes really fast. I know some people get discouraged after doing the whole color wheel. I'm surprised that the color grid is a little bit faster. So persevere, mix your colors until you see them on the palette, and then just gradually add one color to another. You can also see that my color puddles stay where I place them. They're not spreading all over the palette. If the palette was wet, they would certainly travel into each other, but I'm working on a dry palette, so the puddles stay exactly. And I can mix. See, at the top it just flowed where the water was. Whew, sometimes you got to work a little bit, and sometimes it happens right away. Once you have your 2 colors, do you see I have a 3rd puddle started? And I grab the colors as I go, so I'm not contaminating all my colors as I'm gradually swatching. Grab a little bit more purple, grab a little bit more purple. It's amazing how watercolors just sit there and behave. Unlike painting, when you're doing color theory, you do have to wipe away color and create a clean spot. And I know it feels like you're wasting paint, but the paint did its job. Just thank it and wipe it away. Also, Arlen is a bossy color. Gosh, it's always the last color to come off the palette. Another way to keep your colors clean is to use several brushes. Never dip a dirty brush back into the color. Of course, I do it. Do what I say, don't do what I just did. But try to use a fresh brush in your color. Always pull the color onto your palette before you mix it with the other color. As I'm mixing color on my palette, I'm constantly referring back to the chart that I painted and trying to replicate the color as close as possible. And I'm asking myself, is it too blue? Is it too red? Is it the right purple? Am I orange enough? Should I be more orange? And when I'm happy, then I start the drawdown. Again, always mixing the dark color into the light color. In our mixes, we're starting to see where raw sienna, burnt umber, all these browny earth tones are coming from these oranges and blues. Interesting. Admittedly, the center row is going to be very subtle across the whole row of colors. I think the most interesting colors are the ones that are just off their color, off the top row or just off the bottom row. So really pay attention to the colors that you're seeing in the second row and in the fifth row or sixth row. There's some colors that are very useful. So now we're 4, which was the bright orange, and mixing it with the pure ultramarine blue. These are absolute complements, and we should start seeing brick colors, some red oxide colors, beautiful burnt sienna, very useful colors in this. So we are taking red and yellow to make an orange, and then we're taking red and blue to make a purple, and then mixing those together. So it might seem tedious, it might seem a little bit confusing, but if you can keep it separate and do these kind of mixings, it will come naturally to you, and your hands will make this while you're busy trying to paint a painting. You'll be able to do those kind of color mixings to get to the exact color that you want. But more importantly, your eye is going to see, ooh, that's not orange enough, I'm going to add more yellow. Or that's too red of a purple, I'm going to dull it down with its complement, yellow. I do talk to myself in my head, too blue, too yellow, too orange, I'm always like, just tweaking it back and forth. Even though it looks fast in this sped up motion, I'm making a lot of little decisions to come up with the exact color. And waiting to see it before I place it on the page. And it's about this time on a 3-hour class that the students are exhausted. And you might have to set it aside and come back to it later. The early ones I did would take me almost a whole afternoon just to do one chart. Now I can sit down and do a chart from beginning to end in about 40 minutes. This is a sped up version and it's edited, so it'll be about a 20-minute video. But it does get easier if you persevere and just do the work. ColourJot templates come in a range of styles so that you can add interest and versatility to your art journal, so that you can have variety and practice different brush strokes and use different brushes to create the designs. So it's meant to keep things fun and pretty. And now we're into the green and red combinations on the color grid. This is also where beautiful earth tones are made. And I like green and red combos. I know you think Christmas, but if you learn to control them, you can imagine the red flower looking like it belongs to the green stem that it's sitting on, because you have the same green doing the shadows on the flower petals and the same red being used to darken the green on the stems and on the leaves, and helps the plant look like a singular entity rather than maybe broken up and floaty flowers with unrelated colors in the leaves and everything's jumping and jarring. It's nice to have that transition from red to green work so effortlessly. Wow, last 3 remaining, and we're back to the easy one. Number 7, red. Cad red, right out of the pan, mixed with its complement, which is the 50-50 green. So trying to make that perfect middle tone green. Here we go. So my first attempt, oops, I took too much blue. It got dark real fast. That's okay, switch brushes, go back and grab some yellow. Oh, now it's too yellow. Okay, grab some more blue. And then sometimes you just have to go back a bit until it's correct. And then when you're happy, teeny tiny bit add to, well, this time I'm gonna add the red to the green, because in fact the green is starting to be the lighter color. Subjective, I know, but I'm gonna call it the lighter color. So now I'm just going to keep grabbing a little bit more red, doing the swatch, add a little bit more red, make the swatch, and then mostly red with a tiny bit of the green to get that. It's kind of a nice, I don't know, fruity kind of red. Interesting. And now this chartreusey greens on the end here, mixed with the red, will take that purpley red and pull it, because there's so much yellow in the green mixture, it's going to make a more orangey color, as well as dulling it. So you get to change its temperature as well as its intensity. Powerful mixing. And yes, I did say that mixing that green into the red makes it more orangey. Because we're pulling it over to that side of the color wheel. Interesting. These unusual moments in color mixing is the reason I love the ColourJot system. You don't see it any other place than if you chart it out in this manner. And once you have a swatch on paper placed where you made it, it's always going to be a good reference for future. How did I make that color? Oh, it's right there. 2 spots over and 1 spot down. I know how to mix it. Mix the green, mix the burgundy kind of red, and then mix them together. And you see how our complements are always a little bit duller than the first row. Whenever you take colors and mix them together, you're going to get a duller version. So your brightest colors are always right out of the tube. That is why people buy so many colors. But mixing your own, they're going to sit there more harmoniously. And in a limited palette, you don't even have to use all these colors. You can use just a portion of the color wheel. So cool. In the color grid, we just made another 45 colors using our complementary color mixes. So adding that to the color wheel's 54, that's 99 colors. Wait, would you like to see how to make 45 more colors really easily? Just by using a wet, clean brush, wetting a corner, and lifting it with some paper towel. And now that's how we can reveal the lighter color or the tint on each and every color that we mixed with very little effort. When you're lifting colors, you want to just wet the surface, let it sit for a minute, and then lift it off with paper towel. If you scrub it too much with a brush, you might risk disturbing the paper surface, removing too much size, and all of a sudden it's going to look like a foreign piece of paper compared to the beautiful watercolor paper you started with. Arches will hold up to this technique. There's a lot of sizing. It's a very durable paper, so we can lift colors. Also, all the colors I'm using today are what we call non-staining, which means they don't seep in and stain the paper. They will lift off easily with just a bit of water. So here's a quick technique to make another 45 colors, bringing our total to 144 colors with just 3 colors. And creating the light tint has made kind of a highlight onto the shape. So now instead of being a flat shape, we have a shape with a bit more dimension. So there's a nice lifting technique that can bring back highlights to your colors with very little effort. Very useful technique.